Hey guys, so by popular demand, here's a few tips for the Decatur DMV if you're taking your test up there. I was up here all the time about 8 years ago when I first started teaching. Since then, it's been built up quite a bit. There's new roads and there's even a roundabout now. I knew all the examiners. It's just a little too far for me to go these days. So I don't know any of the examiners. I heard they have a whole new crew and there's a slightly higher failure rate than some of the other DMVs. I tell all my students, however, it's not about the route because there's many ways that they can take you. And my videos are not about the test routes. Those are proprietary to the DMV. They could change at any time. And I don't want to give you the false impression that this is a particular way that you're going to go. Having said that, and having brought many students up here to take their test in the past, I have a pretty good familiarity with the area. And I encourage everyone to practice around this area to get more comfortable before your driving test. For the test here in Nevada, you're not going to be asked about the vehicle controls. However, being familiar with the car you're using is important because what if you have to use your hazards during the test? Can you locate them? How about if it's raining or it's dark? You need to use your wipers and turn on your headlights. Before you get to the DMV, have your seat and your mirrors already adjusted. Don't mess with those during the driving test. The driving test is about 20 to 30 minutes. It depends on the examiner, it could depend on traffic. Your responsibility is the safety of your passengers, in this case, the DMV examiner. So their job is to assess your driving. They're not instructors. At the end of the test, they're going to do a debriefing. They're going to go over anything that you need to work on, anything that you did wrong. In fact, they might ask you after the test, can you think of anything that you did wrong? That's not a pass or fail question, but if you remember, whatever it might have been, maybe you rolled past a stop sign. Go ahead and say it, and they might not deduct points off that. It just depends on the examiner. They're all different. And the test is somewhat subjective. You could take the test with 5 different examiners, the exact same test, you're going to get different results. So each little error could cost you a point, 2 points, 3 points, 5 points on speeding the first time, 10 points the second time. So you start with 100 points, you got to pass with 80. You could lose 20 points and you can still pass. There are some automatic fails that we're going to go over here in a minute. But with enough driving experience, you shouldn't have those issues. But what does driving experience mean, anyways? So, on average, if I'm teaching someone with no experience, it usually takes 15 to 20 hours of consistent driving with me to be able to pass the test confidently. Some people can pass with less than that, but it can be difficult. And also, becoming an experienced, well-rounded driver takes about a year of consistent driving. I only had one student that drove almost perfectly on her first lesson. I was convinced that she had taken lessons before. She was only 16 years old at the time. She thought about it for a while we were driving. She was kind of quiet, and then she told me that when she was 12, she drove her father's golf cart around all summer. So I learned something that day myself. Golf carts and actually go-karts translate into driving skill. There's some degree of luck involved with your test, and the test can be somewhat subjective. I remember one student failed up here years ago because there was a horse in the road and she honked at the horse. So there's actually a regulation against honking at horses. So don't do that. I don't even know if there's any horse farms in the area anymore. Here's some general guidelines to get you going. You're going to go check in at the drive test check-in desk. Don't go to the main desk in front. The examiner's going to call your name after checking in. They're generally on time. They've had some computer issues recently, so it's possible they're going to be a few minutes behind. They're going to walk out to the car with you, tell you to get in, start the motor, and roll your window down. And they're going to stand in front of the vehicle and they're going to tell you to signal left and right. They're going to ask you to beep the horn. They're going to walk behind the car, have you step on the brake. They're going to check your brake lights and they're going to check your rear left and right signals again. They will inspect your tires. If your tires are bald, they won't take you on the driving test. If you have a crack in your windshield longer than 3 inches, they'll decline to take the test. So they do a little safety check. I would advise you to check your bulbs the night before your driving test. I've seen it before. People's signals are out or their brake light is out on the driving test. You don't want to wait another month. The examiner's going to get in the car. They're going to have a clipboard. They're going to be writing the whole time that you're driving. They got to fill out the paperwork, so don't think about what they're writing. You're going to have to do, I believe, 3 right turns, 3 left turns, a couple of lane changes. You're going to go through various speed zones, perhaps 25, 35, 45 mile per hour streets. You might go through a couple major intersections, school zone. There's no U-turns. There's no parallel parking. There's no 2-point or 3-point turns. There's no hard stops during the driving test here in Nevada. So it's just basic driving skills. And you know how hot it gets here in Nevada, so make sure you know how to operate that air conditioner. Examiner might actually ask you to turn up the air. During the test, they're not too chatty. They're just going to give you basic instructions. Turn left, turn right, lane change to the left, lane change to the right. They're going to tell you which way to go out of the DMV parking lot, so just follow their instructions. I like the drive test reserve spaces here at Decatur because you're not going to have any pedestrians walking behind your car. That's an issue in Henderson. It's a real tight parking lot. There's a lot of activity, including pedestrians walking all over while you're trying to back up. You can park anywhere, however, you don't have to use the drive test spaces if those are full when you arrive. Just park in the public parking area. So let's talk about some of the skills they're looking for on the driving test. And one thing is the use of your turn signal. Make sure you put on your turn signal at the proper distance. They might ask you to turn left at the next street or at the light, but they might tell you a couple 100 feet in advance or more. Don't just throw your signal on. Look for a 100-foot distance to put your signal on. Some examiners take points off for signaling too early or signaling too late. There's one examiner in Henderson that takes 3 points off on every late signal. When you're stopping, you need to come to a nice smooth stop and you need to come to a complete stop. Just do a quick count to yourself, 1, 2, 3. Then there's no dispute that you made a complete stop. But don't hesitate too long before you go. They want to see a little confidence that you know you can go if you're clear. At a green light, start promptly if you're first in line, but do scan the intersection. Take a quick look left and right, make sure someone's not running through the intersection on a red light. Scanning is part of the test, scanning and awareness. Now you can see my student stopped too far back behind the stop bar. This is a staggered stop. Always come all the way up to your line when you're doing your complete stop. And when you're stopping behind the vehicle in traffic, give yourself about a full car length distance. Let's talk about speed on the driving test. And I have a very detailed video about that. I'll link at the end of this video. You should review that. You should stay as close as possible to the posted speed. 2 to 3 miles per hour under would be ideal, but don't go over. Like I said previously, you can start losing points immediately if you're going over the speed, especially if you're not paying attention. Driving 35 miles per hour in a 45-mile-per-hour zone is too slow. You'll lose points for driving too slow also. The first thing you should do when you turn onto a new street is look for your speed limit sign. And there are numerous 25-mile-per-hour speed zones in this whole area. Sometimes the streets are really wide, so the sign might be out of your peripheral vision. You need to search for those speed limit signs. The streets are also very wide up here, so drivers tend to go too fast. By the time they notice the speed limit sign, it's too late. They've lost quite a few points. You know the rules at roundabouts? If you're not sure, you should review those. The roundabout in this area is a 15-mile-per-hour roundabout. The speed is posted before you enter. The examiner might have you go right, straight, or left. That would be the first, second, or third exit. Make sure you scan. Make sure you yield to any oncoming traffic. A roundabout is not like a four-way stop. It's not who arrives first. So even if you get up there first, if you see a car coming fast from the left or right, you better wait because they're not going to stop. Here's some automatic fails. Consistently speeding, cutting off another driver, failure to stop for a school bus with its arm out or red lights flashing, weaving or straddling the lines, stopping at a green light for no apparent reason, stopping on railroad tracks, driving in the bike lane, backing over a curb or hitting a curb, failure to yield at a four-way stop, not yielding to cars making U-turns, not yielding to pedestrians, poor attitude, palming the steering wheel or driving with one hand, crossing the stop line, not coming to a complete stop, Failure to react to a hazardous condition. Taking the wrong lane when turning at an intersection. Failure to follow the examiner's instructions. Too much hesitation or overall lack of confidence. They can basically say you need more practice. If the examiner has to yell stop or has to grab the steering wheel, that's going to be an automatic fail. Now, there may be more, that's just a few. If you're unsure about the rules of roundabouts, I've got a video about that too in the playlist. In other states, during the drive test, they actually do some counting how often they see you checking your mirrors. They don't do that here, but you should be checking your mirrors frequently as you're driving. As far as lane changes go, only change lanes when the examiner asks you to change lanes, and only if you're safe to do so. If you cut somebody off in the next lane, it's an automatic fail. You need to do a shoulder check. If you haven't been practicing those, you better practice before your driving test. A good sequence for lane changes, when asked to do so, is check your mirrors, signal, perform your shoulder check, and move over. Pedestrian crosswalk coming up. Be sure to scan. Make sure you stop if there's a pedestrian wanting to cross. It's an automatic fail if you don't. I get a lot of questions about the school zones, so you're probably going to go through at least one school zone. If the light is flashing, you need to reduce your speed down to the posted school zone speed, which may be about 15 miles an hour, but every school zone's different. There's some school zones with a sign that says when children are present. That means if you see kids along the side of the road on the sidewalk or in the parking lot, you need to slow down. Also, if you see crossing guards, it means the school zone's active, so you should slow down to the posted school zone speed. If there's a bus parked, but it's just flashing yellow, that just means caution. You can go around it. Okay, guys, I'm gonna wrap this one up. I'm gonna do another couple Decatur videos in the near future here next week. When you go back to the DMV, you're gonna park, and then they're gonna take you inside to do a debriefing. So if you mess up your parking, it's okay to fix it. Just tell the examiner you're gonna fix your parking, back up, and just move over if you're too close to one side or the other. Might save you a couple points. Good luck. Leave questions and comments below. I'll answer all of those.